This is the real deal teaching, isn't it? Nicholas, you have done a fabulous job. I know, right, Sarah?
You're out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it has been absolutely amazing. And just maybe he'll bring something else in the future. Right, Nicholas? Ah. Yeah. So anyway, yes, just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and I appreciate all of you guys. And then the other thing too that I wanted to say is, well, while we're waiting for other people to come in, let's hear from three people. Yeah, some good nuggets, some good golden nuggets, highlights, light bulbs that have gone off. You know, we did this last time. Let's do it again. So you guys share. Let's take three people. Who wants to share? Somebody say it. I'll go.
I'll
Okay.
share.
Okay,
Oh,
go.
I downloaded all the apps. I got that far and I read some of the terms and conditions. So I'm very proud of myself for just starting.
Yes, awesome. Let's go, Sarah.
You read all of the
Welcome
terms
to the
and conditions?
future.
For one of them, I have some questions now.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Okay, you guys, hold on one second. Before we go to the second person, you guys, can you guys mute yourself, please? So, okay. All right, who's gonna go next? You guys are not shy people. Come on. Come on. Christy, go for it, Christy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Nicholas, maybe can I see you? Oh, I can see you. Okay. Um, thank you so much. I just want to share that I have been I started looking into crypto in 2019 and I was led out of nowhere, you know how that is, and got fully imbibed and of course it was weird, it was unknown, I was completely alone. Um, And then I put it aside for a while. I got heavily invested in some projects that I'm really still happy about. And I'm watching things progress now, finally. I read the book Life After Google about the blockchain. And it's a very good book. It's very intense. It's very wordy, but it's all about what's happening with Web3 and the blockchain technologies. So, but then I had to put it on pause because um, nobody else was talking about it. I didn't have the support I need. I have a bunch of stuff on my cold wallet. I'm a hodler, as they call it, and which just means holding. I don't day trade. I love what 360 Trader does, but I don't have the temperament. Um, and but I want that. I want to get into that. I know there's opportunity there. There's so much. So I've been coveting what you're teaching, and I just cried in Dallas when everybody was on stage. It makes me cry now talking so technically because it's so needed. It is so needed. And even if I just want to encourage everybody that the way I started to learn was I just listened to videos and I didn't understand any of it. But as you learn, it's like the verbiage, the word, the new language, you'll start to understand. You'll then have valid, like not, you know, every question's valid, but like questions that are more educated, you know? Um, so yeah, what you're doing is just so timely. And I just thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful, Christy.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to circle back around to what Christy was talking about with financial flow in Dallas. But first, let's hear from Merlin. Merlin, hey, how are you, my friend?
Hi. Uh, I tried I tried crypto in 2022 and yeah, 2022. But then because I joined into a network group. It's like they made it as a networking. I lost all my the thing that I invested good at, I only put $350. It grew to almost 1,000. Like, but then I cannot withdraw. And since I don't know much about how to navigate, and so the app cannot be accessible anymore. So I was a little bit discouraged. Maybe this is not for me because I don't know how to do it. And then I tried to open up the app, the Strike Me and the other one, but then it says it's not in the jurisdiction here in New York. So I said, oh, I cannot buy or trade because it's not allowed here yet. So that's what I would like to ask with Nicholas. And then here I saw it Instagram, and I tried to join, and then I was connected to a WhatsApp, and there is like they call the professor who will say, now you trade, now you hold, don't do it yet. And then many are making money. I said, I'm scared. So I sent an email to Nicholas, and then he said, do not go to that link, but then you better go to
Scams.
Dan, because the other one that was one of the speakers in Dallas. So, but then whenever I see in the WhatsApp, it's so tempting. But then I said, no, no, I don't want to lose again. So that's and thank you for Nicholas for guiding us.
Yeah, that's so
That's
beautiful.
so beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
For
I
sure.
owe you an email answer, okay? I will get to you. I owe you an email answer. I got you.
Yeah, and speaking to that, so first of all, Nicholas, thank you. I know it's a lot. I know that, yeah, it's a lot to respond back to everything, especially when you're working so hard for all of us already. But so you guys, just to let you know, so we're going to come at the end and we're going to answer well, I'm not. Nicholas I'm not the expert. Let me clarify. Okay, so at the end, we'll circle back around and do Nicholas will answer some questions. Then the other thing too that I want to let you guys know is that Nicholas and I are working through getting you guys some information. It'll come after this third session. So what I'll do is I'll package it all and we'll get it emailed out to you guys. Okay, just so that you know that. And then also just really quick while I want to talk to you guys about financial flow, because Christy brought that up and it was a real deal, wasn't it, Christy? And those of you guys that were in Dallas, it was stellar. Okay, you can definitely feel we're going somewhere with this whole financial piece. But really quick, for those of you guys that are on and you were invited by somebody, will you please drop their name in the chat and honor them for inviting you? So if you wouldn't mind doing that, yeah, just throw their name in the chat and let us know who invited you guys, especially if you don't know anything about WOW. That would be really helpful. So, okay, all right. So really quick, you guys, thank you for those of you guys that shared about your nuggets that you got and some of the light bulbs that have come on in your heads. When we were in Dallas for Financial Flow, that was the end of March. You guys, it was amazing. Okay, so Kirby, I mean, those of you guys that have heard Kirby speak, you know that when he comes in with his revelation and he drops those bombs and
Come on. Yeah.
he just comes in and he just totally he will totally lay the foundation for a thing. He talked about inheritance. He talked about the ledger of righteousness. You know, he stepped into that a little bit. Those the ledger of righteousness, if you guys have not heard about ledgers of righteousness, you need to put that in the chat so that we can get you some information about it, because ledger of righteousness is a game changer. Everybody needs to know that, right? Would you guys agree with that? Raise your or do your hand like this. Yeah, if you guys, yeah. Ledger of righteousness is a game changer. So yeah, so if you want more information on that, absolutely you want to get us your information so that we can do that. Okay, so yeah, so Kirby was talking about all the financial, or he was talking about all the foundational pieces, inheritance, ledger of righteousness, forgiveness, and all of that sort of thing to bring in a new mindset to help us think about, our finances, so on and so forth, and the kingdom. Okay, then we had Philip. And we just kind of like Prince, we know them by their first names. We know Philip. We know who Philip is because the last name is too hard for me to say. Okay, so I shouldn't probably compare Philip to Prince, but you guys get the deal, right? And Philip would probably love that comparison. Anyway, okay, so Philip, you guys, when he was talking about just his journey and being married to the church and his role in the church. Wow. Okay, then we had Manju. Manju came in and talked about his and how he flowed through his different jobs and his career and just how he worked through all of that and just had a vision from the Lord and just knew that he was going after serving the kingdom. It was priceless. And then we also had Dan Wheeler. So yeah. So Christy, I think you referred to Dan Wheeler, and Dan Wheeler, he didn't talk a whole lot about the whole crypto piece. He really more talked about his character and the process and how he's processed through life and how he got to where he is today. And you guys, it was amazing. Okay, so there was that, and then there was Mark yeah, Mark Wilburn, he had a lot to say about trading and that sort of thing. And Haritha, oh my gosh. When Haritha came up and dropped his slides, I mean, you guys, if we had to listen to Nicolas and Haritha back to back, we would need to take a week off and just so anyway, yeah. So there was amazing speakers at Financial Flow. We do have that recording. And what I want to tell you guys is that we will drop, I'm going to drop a code in the chat for you guys to get 20% off of that teaching. If you weren't there and if you want that teaching, we're going to give you guys, because you guys signed up for this. So yeah, we want you guys to be able to get that teaching at a discounted rate. So anyway, that is what I wanted to share. Hey, Nicolas, do you want to add anything about financial flow?
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, Kirby, when Kirby brings like Manju and Philip to us, these are like people that already are in the hundreds of millions, Philip case billions, because of the stuff that Kirby's teaching and all of the wow stuff, right? So it's not someone with a nice message or a dream. It's like literally guys that just did it are looking at us and telling us how they did it, right? So it's just a blessing to have ears to hear, because those are made men that just went through all of this stuff. So yeah, just utterly life-changing because they're actually practicing what they're preaching, like literally practicing what they're preaching.
Yeah, it was really good, you guys. So anyway, but we do, like I said, we do have it, that in the product, and you guys can purchase that and go back because it's really timeless teaching. So, okay, all right. Well, so here we go. Last session, you guys. Gosh, this is really hard for me to say last session. Nicolas, because I mean, it's such goodness that I would love to hear more that Nicolas has. And I do believe that we will. And there's some other programs that are coming to from, the leaders when it comes to cryptocurrency, because, as Kirby would say, is that he wants his church rich. He wants the church rich because we need to fund the kingdom, right? He wants us all to be financially blessed so that we can move this thing forward and move the needle on some things. So anyway, okay. All right. So Nicolas, you have at it, and then you guys will circle back around at the end and answer some questions. So, okay.
Thank you, Rose. Let me share my screen. Hey, can you guys see my screen? Yes, awesome. All right, yeah, third session. Today I want to do some recap of the stuff that we just talked about. And here today we're going to talk about the futurism part, okay? So the first section is going to be some recap, and then the third section is going to be some futurism. Bear with me. Allow yourself to just listen to all of this stuff. It'll take a couple of times to get the futurism part, but I promise you that I've been building step by step, so hopefully it makes sense. Placing Bitcoin in a cosmic, broader context. Okay, so mini recap from last session. I want to talk about a little bit more about buying and holding Bitcoin, then placing it in a larger context, and then some promises I'm going to make to y'all. All right, if you remember from last time, we talked about why the dollar is losing value, right? As the debt keeps going up, we live in a debt system, right? All of the banks hold bonds that are government debt, right? All of the real estate is based on mortgages, right? All cash between companies are based on credit, right? The idea is that the taxes that the government collects offset some of that debt. But because technology keeps getting cheaper, better and better and better, there is less of a tax base to collect on, and therefore there's way more debt than taxes, right? The example is how much taxes are on this Zoom call? Zero, it's free, right? So that's what technology wants, to bring all the prices down to zero. But when that happens, there's less of a tax base to pay for the debt. So what the governments then do is print cash. And as the cash goes through the system, the whole idea is that that cash then begins to reach some parity with the debt. But it has some horrible unintended consequences, right? Because if we hold $1 out of $10, that's our value. But if all of a sudden we hold $1 out of $10,000 because the government printed cash, my dollars got devalued without me even doing anything about it. So I have progressively less value in my dollars to the rate that the government prints cash. So this inflationary debt-based system, its consequence is hyperinflation, right? But the dollar is worth less and less, or just a concentration of abundance on the people that have access to that cash, that own stocks, that own real estate, right? Or have we seen in the way that we've seen in many cases, like Venezuela, Zanzibar, whatever, right? The destruction of all value completely, because our money, right, over an infinite amount, when there's no set denominator, equals destruction of all value. That's just a feature of the current medium in which we hold our value. And that's why Bitcoin is really good, because you can't make more of it. So this debt-based hyperinflation system that has a hole in our value system doesn't exist in a Bitcoin system. That's why it's so attractive at a high level. Okay, so today I want to be very clear on this, okay? Very, very clear on this for all of us. And it took me multiple times to understand this, but I think with this one, we're going to get a picture here. All right, high education over here, low education over here, right? Easy to understand versus hard to understand. Short-term thinking versus long-term thinking, right? Oh, I heard about this thing and I'm gonna FOMO and I'm gonna YOLO all my money in, right? You only live once. I'm gonna YOLO all my money in. Short-term thinking, no education. You're just doing it because everyone's doing it, right? Doesn't make sense. Most jobs, right? There's a modicum of education that you need for most jobs, but are mostly short-term, right? They just pay the bills for the next 2 weeks. Some more specialized jobs, obviously, is more long-term thinking. You begin to have a career, right? And obviously you need more education. Okay, here's the thing. Traditional trading, right? If you open your Les Schwab account or your Fidelity account and you buy some stocks, some ETFs, right? All of that requires education. It's just more culturally accepted. So you just trust the Fidelity guy to tell you where to put your money, right? You just trust your Merrill Lynch guy on where to put your money, but there's still a level of education that needs to happen.
I'll let you listen to this.
Yeah, Sue, if you could mute, please. Thank you. And then the same thing for crypto trading, okay? Trading is coming in and out of a crypto, not because of the intrinsic value of that particular coin, rather because of how it fluctuates in pricing, right? This is price action is what Dan Wheeler does, and technical analysis is what Mark Wilburn do. This is a way to get dollars that is very different from what I'm saying. And obviously you can make dollars here, right? But as Christy was saying, this is a high education way of making money. And it's very short term because some of the times you need to be able to make the trade in weeks or in days, even in hours. So you need the right temperament to be the type of person that sits in front of their computer and studies all of this stuff and makes trades on a daily basis, right? You can make money, but you need to make sure that one, you're not making money on the intrinsic characteristics of the coin itself, rather on how it's traded and the patterns of how it's traded. So here, I wouldn't do anything here if you don't have the temperament to be on your computer all the time and go in and out and make trades. And two, I wouldn't trust anyone that's not Dan Wheeler or Mark Wilbur. Just don't listen to them. We know these people are trustworthy. We know these people have the Kirby cosign, but it's very different from what I'm saying. You could do both, obviously, if you have that temperament, right? This is a day-to-day, week-to-week, high volume thing of you and your computer at a high education level, right? We have friends that are really good at it. Cool. I don't personally have that temperament. I know that I can't be glued to the computer every single, let's say, couple times a day to check my trades, right? So when you have traditional investing, this is when you just buy Apple and you let it ride for 20 years, or you buy Google and you let it ride for 10 years, right? You buy Coca-Cola and you let it ride and it's part of your retirement account, or you just might have a couple of bonds from the government and you just let it ride, right? You're not going into your Fidelity account every 5 minutes and actually trade it, aka day trading it, right? You can make money there, high education, short term. What I'm talking about is just buying Bitcoin and holding it for a very long time because we're in the future. And then eventually the rest of the world is going to catch up. And in the meantime, we get all of that value, 140% a year, not trading day in and day out with a bunch of different projects, even though you can do that. Just buy and hold Bitcoin and just sit and let it ride. If you believe in the intrinsic principles that I've been talking about, right? So way more long term. And from an educational perspective, it's still a lift. We still have to learn, right? But it's akin to traditional investing and a specialized job, right? Very doable by everyone on this call. And way easier than learning how to day trade and understanding technical analysis on the curves, right? Y'all can do that too because we're all smart here, but just be honest with yourself on what type of temperament you have and what type of time you can allocate to this, right? I tried this, right? I went to Mark Wilburn's class and I learned so much and I would have made a lot of money. I know this, but I personally don't have that amount of time that I can allot on a weekly basis. One of my best friends does and is making tons of money with it. Dollars, right? He's making dollars. So I use my dollars that I get from my jobs and my companies, and I buy Bitcoin and I let it sit because I believe, one, I have the temperament for that kind of investment. And two, based on everything I've shared with you so far, I believe because of its intrinsic characteristics that you can't make more of, this scenario that has downed every single empire in modern civilization is those characteristics are intrinsically not in Bitcoin. Obviously, still a risk, like everything. But this is a little matrix that hopefully lands we want to invest in cryptocurrency. Cool. What do we mean by this? There's two separate things. Buy and hold Bitcoin versus actually you can hold some of the other crypto projects, but you can make more of them, right? Bitcoin's the only one that you can't make more of them that there's no official office in which you can sue. There's no official CEO that the government can go after, right? It's truly a commodity. No one knows who invented it, and it's fully decentralized and unstoppable. So my long-term money, I'm putting it in the thing that has the least counterparty risk. No government controls it. You can't sue no CEO. You can't storm the building. And I don't have to be glued to my computer 24/7. And I just and the learning is less than some of the other ones. Okay, if y'all can mute, please, that would be awesome. So anyway, please refer back to this when someone says, hey, follow my tips on how to trade and you'll make a bunch of money. Too good to be true. We know that trading requires a lot of education. If someone's promising you, hey, give me $1,000 and I'll give you back 2,000, only the people that we trust. And then Bitcoin buying and holding, that's something that you are sovereign under, that you can control yourself. So I just wanted to take some time and really put some weight on this matrix over here. Okay, last thing I'm going to say before we get into the futurism part. Again, right, there's security on one axis and education on another axis, right? If everyone here uses the internet, but if I ask us how HTTP works or how IP addresses work, almost none of us can have an answer, right? Which means that there's an educational curve, but we don't have to know absolutely every single detail, because there's really good companies beginning to come into the scene that are just as professional as banks are, just as professional as current trading houses are. Okay. So if you want to buy and hold Bitcoin, there are 2, 3, 4 ways on how to do it, right? What we call custodial, right? When someone else holds the Bitcoin for you, right? It's called an exchange. An exchange is a website where you go, you create an account, you connect your bank account, and you sell dollars and buy a particular cryptocurrency, right? Coinbase is the most famous one. You can buy Bitcoin there, but you can also buy all of the other ones. Once you bought it in Coinbase, if it's still in the exchange, it's technically not yours yet. Just like the money in the bank right now is actually not money under your mattress, right? Y'all know that money is like actually not there, right? The bank grabbed it and reinvested it, mostly to buy bonds and T-bills and whatever that bank is doing. So it's similar to that. Is it safe? Yeah, most likely, but I wouldn't keep it there, right? I want to use the characteristic of Bitcoin that allows me to actually be the one holding it, not the exchange, right? More akin to grabbing my dollars and having them with me. Okay, so if you move one rung out on education, right? A Bitcoin only exchange. Companies that only do Bitcoin, they're doing amazingly well. Strike, River, Swan, I use all of them. It works the same way, right? You download it, you create an account, you connect your bank account to it the same way you would if you open a Merrill Lynch or a BlackRock account, right? To Fidelity account, exactly the same way. And then you just use your bank account or your card to buy Bitcoin, right? So I barely use this. I used to. And then when I realized that you can have a Bitcoin only one, cool, I just use these. And yes, some states are slower than others, right? New York still doesn't allow that. Um, um, wink, wink, why do you think that is, right? Like, where's the financial system, the legacy financial system now, right? It ain't in Oklahoma, it ain't in Texas, it's in New York. So that's why they're slow to the party. Yeah. And then something else that I've done personally, I've moved my retirement account from I used to have it at a Fidelity account, right, from my job, and I moved it into Bitcoin only IRAs. I use iTrust and Swan, right? So they will just walk you through it the same way at your job. You have a retirement account with a Fidelity. You eventually, it's the same process as if you would move it from Fidelity to Charles Schwab, right? You're just moving it from one company to the other. And then once it's in the other one, they convert it to Bitcoin for you, right? And then they give you get it when you retire. Same thing. Cool. Now, the next step is called self-custody. Right now, all of these things, we're trusting these companies to hold our Bitcoin the same way that we currently trust banks to hold our dollars, right? Or the same way we trust financial institutions to hold our retirement, right? We don't actually have the Apple stock in our wallet, right? It's in a retirement account. Same thing. But with Bitcoin, you can do self-custody, right? There's what we call the hot wallet, which means it's just an app that you download onto your phone, right? And I use Sparrow. Whoops, sorry. There's another one called Leather, right? Bitcoin only. That what that does is once you've bought your Bitcoin in an exchange, you send it to your wallet that can be in your phone and in your computer. And that way you are the one that actually owns it and the one that you're actually physically holding the Bitcoin in your personal wallet, right? I will send a lot of videos on how to do all of this and the ones that I personally use. And again, just remember that if you've done this or if you've done this, trust yourself that you can do this, okay? Trust yourself that you can do it. It's way simpler than the current financial banking system. Okay, lastly, and Christy was talking about this, something that only Bitcoin can do is a hard wallet, which is an actual physical device like a USB stick, right? They look like a USB stick in which now the Bitcoin transfers over to your actual hard wallet device, and it's not on the internet. It's like putting it on a safety deposit box. It's like when you go to the bank and you have your documents, and if you own gold, you have that in a safety deposit box. The same thing, but you own it, right? So it puts the onus on you as the individual and empowers you as the individual to be the one that holds it. So yes, this requires a lot more learning. Best case scenario, everyone will just hold their Bitcoin in their own actual device. And if you ever want to sell it or use it, you can move it back to your hot wallet, or you can move it back to an exchange if you ever need to exchange it for dollars. Yeah, and be patient with yourself, right? If you start here, cool. I recommend that we start here. And then eventually move up to the next ones as you get excited at the pace that you learn, okay? Like no one's gonna take it from you, especially if you do Bitcoin only companies. But once you go down the rabbit hole and it begins to click, you're going to want to play with all the toys. You're going to want to do the new things, right? So just trust yourself that if you keep a nice pace of education, I'm not talking about cramming for the test that's tomorrow, but a nice pace of education, if this has captivated you to the point that now it's an interest of yours, right? Instead of following sports or instead of following a TV show, right? In that same narrative structure, you begin to follow Bitcoin, then you'll naturally get the motivation to go to this one and to this one. And I will share with you a bunch of tutorials on how to do it, okay? Personally, I'm right. Most of my money is still here. No, sorry, most of my money is still here. And right now, when I get back home, I'm going to transfer it to the cold card, right? So not even me have I taken it all the way to the stage. I'm mostly right here. Okay, so again, and this is just Bitcoin only, right? Coinbase is the only one that I trust that's not just Bitcoin only, but I would still start here if it's allowed in your jurisdiction. Sorry, New York City. All right. This is what we talked about last time, right? If the future were immediately graspable, it would be the present. So incarnate the future by studying. Okay, it's an honor to make the acquaintance of the future, but it'll only incarnate with our attention. So give it your attention. If it's too good to be true or too easy, y'all know it ain't real. All right, cool. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit to talk about the futurism part. Some of you might have already seen this. This is what I have in my website, right? But they're paradigms of convergences. I believe that the four most important ideas or concept in the next age is spirituality, longevity, exponential tech and AI, and money. And how they converge, it creates the environment in which we live. So right now we live in a disproportionately abundant paradigm because of all of the things that we already talked about. Because the dollar is broken, right? The value flows to real estate and to stocks, and those become too big to fail, and therefore real estate is overpriced, and all of the stocks are de facto government oligarchies, right? But we have the opportunity with Bitcoin to transition into a paradigm that I call prosperity possibility, where the spiritual imperative starts changing from survival, starts transitioning to a spiritual imperative of life. And as longevity sciences and exponential tech and AI and this spirituality and Bitcoin converge, what emerges is a way better system that I'm dubbing prosperity possibility. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. So what happens at the convergence point of longevity science and money? I don't know if you guys know or not, but if you've kept up with longevity sciences, but it's growing exponentially. They say now that the generation that's going to live more than 200 years is already alive, right? Whether it's CRISPR gene editing or whether it's a bunch of beginning to be FDA approved compounds that mimic the effects of fasting, right? Or create more T cells, create more stem cells that are actually the cells that can become any other cell, right? We've narrowed down aging to 7 or 8 processes, not an inevitability. And those 7 or 8 processes, we're deploying technologies for those processes to begin to have solutions to them. Kirby talks about this a lot, right? He ingests peptides. He's done another one called NAD plus. We're not going to talk today about the specifics on how to do all of these longevity protocols, but it's here, right? It's here right now. People in the space say, hey, don't die of anything stupid. Just last 10 more years and we will have the medicine to continue to add years to our life, almost to the point that there's no theoretical end in sight. So if that's the case, why would I want to live longer if the container of my monetary energy loses value exponentially? Why would I want to live longer if I need to keep earning and gaining more money in my investments to outpace inflation? Why do I want to live 160 years if I know that in 160 years, because of the intrinsic characteristics of the US dollar, it will continue to lose value exponentially? How does that match with living a long life? Why do I want to live a long life where my value, the bucket has a hole? Why would I want to live a long life in a system that only resets itself via wars? That's how the inflationary systems reset themselves. There's too much debt. Well, what do? We go to war. After the war, we reset the debt and we start the whole game again. How do you think, where do you think the money for the wars comes from? I ain't giving it to anyone. Does anyone here actually vote for a war and then give your own money for a war? Of course not. It's printed. It's printed money that goes from nowhere. That's the money that is used for wars. So not only does this system allow for war, every single war devalues your own currency. And if someone wins, cool, they get to reset it. And if someone loses, they're done. So why do I want to live a long life under a system that only resets itself via war? in Bitcoin, if we lived under a full-on Bitcoin system, you can't make more of it. So the only way to go to a war is if all of the citizens agree and willingly donate some of their Bitcoin into the governments to then go and fund the war that they want to fight. But the incentive to fight it is not there because you don't have to reset the whole debt system by beating another country. So if I'm gonna, right, so longevity plus fiat equals at best an uneven distribution of life. In a Bitcoin standard, my monetary energy does not inflate and it does not lose value. It'll be right there when I'm 200 years old. It'll be right there when I'm 150 years old. No one can make more of it, so therefore the value doesn't go away. In a Bitcoin standard, if more money continues to flow into Bitcoin, instead of me having to have a house that I invest in and real estate, and I need to trade, and I need to have my retirement and a side hustle, in the Bitcoin standard, if it continues to happen, the more money comes in, the more valuable your Bitcoin is without having to do anything. So it ties to a longer life. And the one that I really like is that it's politically neutral. It's not controlled by any particular government. So if we're going to live another 100 years, maybe I don't want to live in America in another 100 years. Maybe I want to move to a beach country and try that for 30 years. Right? Maybe I want to move to a mountain country and try that for 20 years. Well, now I have everywhere money. Bitcoin is everywhere money. US dollars is some places money. And we're going to get to the point where humans outlive countries. We're going to get to the point where humans outlive countries. And if that's the case, why would you want to have the majority of your value in the currency of a country where you might outlive it? So have it in a politically neutral, decentralized system that even though a particular country goes down, your money's still there. Longevity plus Bitcoin equals a monetary energy to support long life. I know that's a lot, but I can see your faces beginning to click. Okay, let's do AI now. All right, AI, we've talked about it. It's inescapable. It's all the rage. Why would a logical AI choose to transact business in a currency that can be instantly devalued by a couple of humans? An AI doesn't have a sense of loyalty to a country, right? Even though loyalty to a country is cool, right? Patriotism is cool. AI doesn't have patriotism. AI doesn't have history. AI is not tied to wars won by our grandparents. They're like, wait, I'm going to do business. Why would I do business on a dollar system where 3 guys in the Federal Reserve can choose to make more and therefore completely devalue it? I don't want to do that. Is there a better type of money? Oh yeah, Bitcoin, the one that no person can make more of and mess with. Cool. Why would they do otherwise? Why would the AI do otherwise? Why would the AI choose to transact on a non-immediate physical bureaucratic network? Oh, I can't make transactions on Saturdays? I can't make a transaction past 5? An AI doesn't know what a weekend is or what banking hours are. So why would it not want to transact in the one network that's immutable, that's open all the time, and there's no bureaucracy? So AI plus fiat equals unnecessary friction, and the power concentrates on whoever owns the AIs. On a Bitcoin standard, because it's decentralized, because it's non-editable, non-controllable, it's digitally native, the AI will say, hey, I'll transact on that network. It's better than the Swift network or the dollar network or the Visa network, right? If there's a scandal with a Visa CEO and the stock price goes down and like all of a sudden, like they charge more, like, right? It's all of these counterparty risks that don't exist on Bitcoin. And then another very beautiful thing as AIs use Bitcoin to transact, all the Bitcoin holders accrue value. So if I have my Bitcoin in my hard wallet under my bed at home, and all of the AIs are running their business using Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin to be in the network, because more money is coming into the network, I'm making more money doing nothing. So, and this is oversimplified, you guys, but the main point remains, right? AI plus Bitcoin equals less friction and power decentralization. And then the efficiencies of AI can actually come down to everyone. The efficiencies that the AI will bring, if transacted in Bitcoin, will be reflected in your Bitcoin being worth more. No logical AI will choose the slower, more controlled, more bureaucratic network when a native internet one that no one can mess with already exists. That's coming. That's futurism. Okay. Spirituality, right? I'm not just talking about religion, but about consciousness, about our relationship to earth, about our understanding of ourselves in the grander scope of the universe and God, right? In a dollar system, we have a survival mindset. I gotta make it till the end of the month. I gotta pay my bills. I got my deadlines. Man, I can't make TGIF. Can't wait to make it till Friday. You know what? Our quarterly reports need to be better than last quarter. Like we gotta make it. Year over year returns. Like man, I don't know if we're gonna make it. We're trending worse than last year. Why? Because in a dollar denominated system, as we've talked about, you constantly have to make more and more and more and more and more to keep up with the inflation. So we've swallowed the reality that everything needs to constantly cost more, and that the only way to keep moving forward is to keep working harder than last year and harder than last year and harder than last year and harder than last month and then last week and yesterday. That's a survival mindset. What does that do to your spirituality? It's slavery based. It's control of the many by the few. And then when we're done, I got to give 30% to this other dude. I'm not against taxes. I'm just telling it like it is. It's a short-term mindset. And we consider the health of an economy based on the quote unquote growth, if the GDP grew or not, at the cost of the environment. The only way that we can be better is if we made more stuff and sold more stuff than last year. That's what we consider good. And that's at the cost of the environment. And it keeps our consciousness very local. Man, I'm too tired to go to church on Sunday. I've worked all week. You know what? I'm not going to go to church. Or you know what? I have a deadline. I'm going to work 3 more hours. I'm going to feel really proud of myself, right? But your whole world collapses to just the stuff that you have to do. If you want to choose an archetype of Christ, is Christ crucified. Survival mindset. Jesus in the cross knows how this feels. And I'm happy that there's a Jesus that knows how this feels. But my whole conception of Christ is just Christ crucified, because he's suffering too, bro. But at least he knows how it feels, how I suffer. And he does. I'm very thankful for it. Spirituality plus fiat equals survival and consumption. On a Bitcoin standard, it's decentralized. Every single transaction that has ever existed in the Bitcoin network, anyone can see it. It's more righteous by default. It's more free by default. No one can make more of it. Everyone can see all of the transactions that have ever happened, not who did them, right? But the fact that they did them. So you can't pull a fast one on anyone. Now in the dollar system, we have no idea who's transacting what to who. And because the value doesn't decrease like the dollars, it's a longer term mindset. Right now, I have the majority of my money in Bitcoin, and I'm no longer worried about my retirement. I'm no longer worried about what my kids are going to do when I have them here soon. Because I know that it's gone 140% up every single year in average, not because the quote unquote company just released the new AirPods, because of its intrinsic characteristics that you can't inflate it. And dollars are flowing into Bitcoin because the smart money already understands that this medium is broken and this medium isn't broken. And we're just at the beginning. So we got, I don't know how many, but tens and tens of years of dollars in the system flowing into Bitcoin. And what we talked about in the first session, then our economy won't be one of GDP growth at all costs. It has to be growth at all costs because we need to make absolutely sure that there's something here still to pay for taxes, to pay for the debt. But in a Bitcoin system where you don't have to pay back the debt, technology can be set free to do whatever it needs to do to bring all of the prices down to zero, which is what technology wants anyway. So coffee will be 5 cents instead of $7. It'll be set free. Sorry, over here. And that allows you a multidimensional consciousness. Hey, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat in a couple of weeks. I can actually think about the future. Oh, I'm going to now start meditating, and I am now self-identifying with the Christ that's seated in heavenly places, not just the Christ that's crucified, because I can now move forward and look forward without the fear of having to produce in small cycles of time. So spirituality plus Bitcoin equals a longer term mindset and a planetary symbiosis. When in a fiat system, we need to build more and more and more and more and more at the cost of the environment just to pretend that we're doing good. In a Bitcoin system, when we let prices go down to zero where they want to be, and the definition of a successful economy is not how much what we can produce and sell and buy, rather than quality services that go down in price, by definition, we'll have a completely different relationship with our earth. Land won't be real estate. It'll be a holy place. Land won't be for maximizing the yield of the crops, but rather for it will be for gifts, and it will be for ceremonies. We're so entrenched on the way we think things have to be through this system, but it doesn't have to be that way. So we've talked about this, right? Under the existing system, the abundance is disproportionately sent to those that hold assets. In a prosperity possibility, when we can begin to transition to more of a life than survival in a Bitcoin instead of a fiat, now prosperity can be equally distributed because we don't have to print money to offset the gains of technology. I know it's a lot, you guys. It took me a couple of times to hearing it for it to click, but this is what's happening in the world. Then after this, there's two other ones that I'm not going to talk about now because it gets more mystical and it's a lot. I'll talk about them at another time. But two other very futuristic paradigms of these convergences of these forces. But okay, I want to spend time here. So, okay, cool, Nicolas, you keep talking about if we all lived in a Bitcoin standard, yeah, but we're not all there, and very few people begin to understand this future. So what's actually gonna happen? Okay, so there are 4 potential paradigms. The existing fiat paradigm, we already talked about it, right? What is beginning to happen, which is a Bitcoin fiat hybrid. I told you last session that now all of the banks are beginning to buy Bitcoin. The world's largest financial asset holders, BlackRock, Fidelity, now they're buying and selling Bitcoin. Congressmen and congresswomen are buying Bitcoin, right? The family offices and the sovereign wealth funds in the Arab world are beginning to buy Bitcoin. So instead of going from, well, we're not gonna, instead of transitioning fully to a Bitcoin standard that I've been talking about, even though it can happen, what's most likely going to happen is that the existing institutions will stay, but they're going to transform from being only dollar-based, inflationary-based, and they'll buy Bitcoin and they'll back their dollars based on the finite Bitcoin. Very similar to what we had in the 60s and in the 50s, where there was only X amount of dollars tied to how much gold you had. That clearly didn't work because you can fake it. But now we're moving or transitioning into a hybrid between Bitcoin and fiat, where Bitcoin is going to replace the part of gold with all of its added characteristics. And then dollars are going to be overlaid on top of the Bitcoin. That's going to be an easier transition to the future, because otherwise we have to tear everything down that we got going on now, right? And I don't want a difficult transition. I want an easy transition, right? Everyone that talks about, there's a subset of Bitcoiners that talk about tearing down the system and build a new one. That means a lot of pain for a lot of folks we all love. So how can we do an easier transition? How can we pray and visualize an easier transition, right? So transitioning into a hybrid model, that's what's going to begin to happen. Like, we're doing it ourselves. If you end up buying Bitcoin here, it's not that you're not going to have any dollars, right? Or you're going to cut up your American Express, right? Like, the mortgage is still there. So yeah, what's going to happen there is that the institutions are going to transform. Yes, we will have new institutions that we've never had before. But the beauty here is that all value in the system will go to the Bitcoin holders. So if the world begins to move in this direction and you happen to hold Bitcoin in your exchange or in your wallet, it'll increase in value to the rate that the world is moving this way. Okay. These two are synthetic timelines. They're more local timelines, right? Is what I talk about, like, yeah, more devices in your head. It's more of a synthetic timeline. As we transition to a full-on Bitcoin standard, I want this in-between step. But if we do get, especially if we're going to start living longer, we need to have vision for this. We do get to the point where we have an epigenetic environment shift. What do I mean by that? So y'all know epigenetics, right? Like 80% of the gene in our body, their expressions are based on the environment, right? The genes don't say what happens to you. The genes turn on and off depending on the environment. And we usually say, oh yeah, that means if there's like toxins or poison in your environment. No. It's all energies. We are severely underrating the epigenetic strength of stress and deadlines and fiat money on our genetics. One of the reasons that we haven't fully had escape velocity in lifespan, it's not just the medicinal, which is already almost here, but it's the energetic, the epigenetic environment in which we live in. We live in stress-based, survival-based, expenses increasing based energetical system. As you move over to a Bitcoin standard, where those environmental conditions change as a consequence of the inherent characteristics of this new medium, the epigenetic consequences are wonderful and yummy and very, very valuable. And our already existing genes are going to behave differently, that allows us to then live longer because of it. There's going to be a symbiosis boom. There's going to be Instead of shopping malls, there's going to be gardens, a longevity and a tech boom. There's going to be new political containers. What do I mean by that? Kingdoms were the political container of the gold age. Countries are the political container of the fiat oil age. Why do I need a government for if I have my own money? I don't need no dollars. I don't need no tax man. I decide if I want to give some of my money into this new political ecosystem to pool the resources and then make a thing. Wait, when did I vote that if I don't pay my taxes, then the mans with guns come and put me in jail? I love America. Like, I live in Texas. Like, I love Texas. But this change over here allows for new political containers, which is a constant of history. As the medium of value changes, so does the political container, because the political container's main job is to administer the scarcity of value. The king holds the gold, everything else is war. Oh, now we have some dollars, we can do businesses. Okay, now it's the taxman and the policeman and the lawman that let it a little bit out, right? And we can administer the scarcity with a little more freedom, but I'm still going to take 30% of everything. Don't scandalize, just incentives. But when you move to a Bitcoin standard that now we're the actual holders of the value and no one can make more of, the role that we are now going to need from a government is significantly smaller and different. I don't know what it's going to be called, but we need to start thinking about this stuff. And all the value goes to the Bitcoin holders. And then, once we cross through this one, there is going to be an energetic-based economy or a joy-based economy where we don't need no money anymore, because technology is going to be so instant that our ability to co-create with God, tying it to the first session, is going to be instant. Because technology is going to begin to do its thing, not when we press a button, but when we think it. And the rate at which things are going to be created is no longer like the speed of a company or the speed at what I can buy at Home Depot. It will be because of automation, robotics, AI, energy. It's going to be almost instant, right? Think about if you want to make an iPhone. You got to make a company, you got to go buy all of the materials, you got to study, you got to do the legal stuff, then you have to have a business and then sell the iPhone, right? That whole length is the speed at which we now co-create with God. That one is going to continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Money is just a proxy. Money is just an abstraction. Money in all of its forms is just an abstraction of our ability to co-create with God. Money is just an abstraction that denotes the speed of the co-creation. The worse the money, the slower the co-creation with God. The better the money, the quicker the co-creation with God. So in a couple of paradigms from now, we will just think and technology will do. And we won't need a symbolic intermediary called money. We will just feel it out of joy. And that's what the economy itself is going to be. And that epigenetic environment, that's the stage for immortality. Value will be translated biologically and psychologically. Back to the first slide in this whole conversation, right? That our birthright of co-creation refracts into technology and into money and all of that. These two are more naturalistic, multidimensional timelines. And if we don't get out of this one's looking at these are looking tough. So when you buy Bitcoin, not only are you protecting your money, your value in a better container, you're beginning to vote for the realities that those incentives embedded within Bitcoin allow. This is a big one, you guys. So please hear this again until it clicks. And I'm not saying this is the only way, but the blessing of immortality, a subset of the blessing of immortality, is better money. Bitcoin is not the savior. God is the savior. Bitcoin does not give us immortality. God does. But a subset of the power of immortality is always better money. And Bitcoin is the best money that we have. Eventually it won't be once we switch on to full-on energy, but that's many paradigms from now. Okay, we're almost done. So what can the church build now? If we know this, and this is beginning to click, how can we combine some eternal principles with the characteristics of the new medium to incarnate the previously impossible? That's the question when you begin to get this. The church was able to, in the faulty fiat world, right? I'm very thankful. We were able to build schools and hospitals and endowments and inheritances and even countries. The church did that, right? There's so many hospitals started because of the church. Schools started because of the church. And that's within the combination of eternal principles and the medium of inflationary fiat. So what do we do when it comes, what can the church now do understanding the intrinsic characteristics of Bitcoin? Maybe instead of schools that trot out employees like a factory line, that trot out employees that go into the system to work for 65 years with only 2-week vacation a year to pay 35% of taxes, maybe in a Bitcoin system that does not deflate, which value accrues long-term, we build orders and temples again. And cathedrals, Michael, like you were saying, where you can be part of an order for 3 years and live in a temple for 4 years. Because you know when you're done, the money that you saved did not lose value, but only accrued. What instead of hospitals to take care of the sick or to manage diseases, which is what it's converted into, to create hospital users, right? No bad guys, just incentives. It's better right now for the hospitals to not cure disease, but to treat disease. So there's a recurring revenue because their money is losing value. In a Bitcoin standard, we don't need hospitals. We might be able to make immortality geographies. Because when you go to the town that's fully on the Bitcoin standard, no one is stressing. And we can allow hospitals to actually cure the ailment and not just keep you as a patient for years for the bottom line. No bad guys, incentives. Immortality geographies. Instead of endowments for schools or associations where the members continuously need to give dues, we just put Bitcoin on, let's say, a park or an association, and now it's funded for posterity. You don't have to be hitting me up in the alumni network to fill the endowment. You get it. You're beginning to get these new things that currently don't exist, that we need to be creative about if we understand eternal principles and the principles of the new medium. What if instead of inheriting our money and then the government's taxing us on the inheritance, we just create a completely sovereign generation? Every single kid born starts with 0.1 Bitcoin. They can choose to be whatever country they want. Right? Their schooling is going to be completely different. Their life trajectory is going to be completely different. They're going to be above a government, a sovereign generation. This is the one that's personally calling me. I want every single kid to start with this money, not this money. To the same degree that kids now have the internet that don't know the typewriter, right? I barely remember the typewriter. There's kids now don't remember the world without internet. The same thing's going to happen here. It's only more intense in power because it's sovereignty, right? And we just talked about this, right? Instead of countries, sovereign groups based on principles and symbiosis with Earth. Can the WOWers become a group as sovereign as a country? Just a question. Well, if you have money that doesn't lose value, yeah, maybe. And then we can restart tying our peoples to the earth by genetic design, not by military might. Just a bunch of examples of how to think with the new medium. This is the future, you guys. Okay. I just said a lot. Like always, I feel the quality of your silence. Thank you. Okay. So here are some promises that I'm promising you and everyone watching the replay. Extensive list of resources by next Tuesday. I'm going to answer all emails by next Thursday. Thank you for your patience, y'all. And then you can go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. I'll keep this type of conversation going. But with Rose, I've committed to do these two. Okay, so that's a promise. Now, I want to end with this guy. Education breeds conviction. Conviction breeds action. And only action pulls the future into the present. If you don't understand it or it is too much, it's just education. And everyone here is very smart. I trust all of you that if this resonates in your heart, continue with the education on all of these topics. It will breed conviction. And once you feel conviction, it's not just, oh yeah, that's interesting. Or like someone told me about it, but like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, there's a thing here. Like, this is it, y'all. That's conviction. And then you jump into action. Oh, I downloaded the apps and now I'm going to connect my bank account to it. And then I'm going to buy the Bitcoin. And now that I have the Bitcoin, I'm actually going to put it in my wallet. And shoot, now I'm going to start thinking about the consequences of immortality and the consequences of architecture because of Bitcoin. Wow, how does the world change because of that? And all of this is just a blessing of the Lord. And boom, we start pulling the future into the present. So I'll leave you with that thought. And with that, thank you very much. And yeah, we're here for questions.
Oh my gosh, Nicholas, amazing. Absolutely amazing. You know what? And when you were talking about, the transition, I really, really appreciate what you said when you said it's painful for a lot of people. Transition can be, painful for a lot of people that we love. And we always have to remember that, right? I mean, we want the best for everybody because everybody is, we all come from the same creator. And so I love that you said that. Okay, so really quick, Sarah, hold on just a second. I just want to throw out some of these other questions that, have come. So, okay, so there was a question in the chat from Teresa about EFTs. Do you want to speak to that really quick?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That is the Bitcoin ETFs, right? So this is a perfect example of this hybrid thing here going on, right? So traditionally, companies like BlackRock or Fidelity, right? They would sell you an ETF, which is basically like a combination of all the S&P 500, right? The QQQ, right? And you just add it to your portfolio, and what it does, it's basically it owns many pieces of most of the tech companies, right? And you just own it in your retirement portfolio. A bunch of us probably already own traditional ETFs in our retirement accounts, right? So these big companies starting to wise up, and what they've said now is, hey, maybe you don't want to go through the whole education, right, of buying your own Bitcoin, right? Just go to your broker, to the broker that you already have on your Wells Fargo, on your T. Rowe Price, or on your Fidelity, and just have them buy the Bitcoin ETF. What that means is that BlackRock now is one of the world's biggest owner of Bitcoin, and they sell you little pieces of it in the same way that they sell you any other fund.
Mhm.
So in a way, it's a way to own Bitcoin through the existing system. If that works for you, go for it, right? Because then all you got to do is just tell your Fidelity guy to buy Bitcoin and you don't have to do any of this. But it's the most custodial of things. You actually don't own the Bitcoin, right? Fidelity does. You just own a claim of it. So you can't use it for anything else, and it's still within the existing system. It's the main tool. Sorry, it's the main tool for this hybrid state. The existing institutions are beginning to transform, but without letting go of the leeway, because it's still on their rails, on their paper, on their rules, right? So some people, that might be the right thing for them. I know for me, it isn't. I'd rather have it and start living on this one instead of in this one. Because it still has a lot of counterparty risk, right? You can't take it to another country. You can't spend it outside of the US, right? There's still a lot of taxes on it, and all of the limitations of any other traditional financial asset. And the ones that own the Bitcoin is them, not you. But again, not scandalizing it. It might work for some people.
Yeah.
Personally, it's not for me because of those reasons. But it's incredibly good for Bitcoin that now the big dogs in the financial system not only lend it credence, it's beginning to be one of their biggest holdings in their portfolios anyway.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that. It may be for some, but it's not for you. And you guys, we have to remember, first of all, we can't get into FOMO and fear about this stuff. We have to always, increase our relationship with, God, so that, we can be led properly, because what might be right for me may not be right for Nicolas, or vice versa, or you guys. And so whenever we, go down the path of doing this, stuff and making these decisions, just like when Kirby was talking about vaccinated or not vaccinated, what do you make the decision based on your relationship with God and what God tells you to do. Nicolas, I do like that you stepped there and kind of talked about the institutions transfer, and like the 401ks, because there's a lot of talk out there right now about like, hey, my 401ks and fiat. It's being yeah. And so I really appreciate that you brought that up, because it is a big deal right now. Like, what do I do with it? And so I really appreciated you bringing that up. Now, Dorothy dropped, and then I'm going to get to Helena's questions, but Dorothy dropped a question in the chat. Basically, I'm going to talk about previous currencies, that people valued, or, like, what did she put in there? The Vietnam Dong and the Iraqi dinar, and even, gold. Okay, so what about being diversified? I mean, even like talking about, gemstones, diamonds, that sort of thing, and having that as currency or collateral, or however you want to say that. So yeah, what do you think about being diversified?
Yeah, so feel free to disagree with me, you guys. It's it's a very wise thing to do under the existing system. But right now, what's happening is that we're transitioning systems. So in my opinion, the diversification is not how diversified I am under the existing system, but rather how much of my value do I have in this system versus in this system. If I keep some in this system, cool, diversification has proven to be kind of okay, right? But the question is now, which of my value do I put in each system? So from that perspective, the way that I diversify is a lot here and a little less here, right? For you, it might be different. From you, it might be like, hey, you know what? I want to still keep a lot of it here and a little bit here. And that's your diversification strategy. Awesome. And then the stuff that you currently have in here, then quote unquote, diversify in the traditional way. And I'll just say one thing. In the history of the world, when has the cheaper, better, bigger, faster thing ever failed?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that, talking about transitioning, diversified or being diversified and transitioning, even if we take baby steps, just being, because it's all considered, we're still early adopters, right? And so even if we just take baby steps with your level of comfort, I mean, I think we just have to like take a little bit of risk and let, Holy Spirit speak to us about, okay, so what's the next step? Or come on, let's step out there and test the waters a little bit. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, totally. There's no rush, you guys. We're still incredibly early in all of this. Incredibly early in all of this. No rush, no FOMO. Go at the rate. That's why I ended with this thing, right? Go at the rate of your conviction.
Yeah.
Go at that rate. Don't go at my pace. Don't go at a fear pace. Like trusting yourself. If you want to get educated and you build conviction, go at that pace. I'll just say this. There's no one that has gone into the Bitcoin rabbit hole and actually began to click that gets out of it. That then says, you know what? Actually, no, let me go back to the old thing, right?
Mhm.
So yes, take baby steps, but each baby step is going to give you the conviction to take the next one,
Yeah.
and then you'll be on your path.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. So good. Yeah, and and as we just continue to, open up and just be thinking about, what do I not know? Do I trust my current state, or is this something that I really need to kind of like lean into? And you guys, I am so, so, so grateful for being under the covering of Kirby and Fiona DeLaneral, and then also having Philip, Manju, Nicholas, Dan, all of these brainiacs, these brilliant people that are, you know what, they're up under the same covering. So are you kidding me? I mean, it's amazing that we are in this group, you guys, and I'm so, so honored by it. So thank you again. Okay, so let me step into what Helena was asking, and she was talking about the two links in the session. And I think that that will come in, the information, Helena, that's coming forth. And then she goes on to say, does it take you in a place where you can buy personally or another company or a group? Does this mean that a person can buy what they have, even if they're very small part one of Bitcoin? Yeah. So I think you kind of answered that earlier. Yeah.
Yep, you can buy as $5 worth, right? You don't have to buy a whole one. You can buy $5 worth here, right, or here. You can buy as much or as little as you want.
And then her last question is, how does paying with Bitcoin work?
Paying with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't get too much into it because right now we're in the state of Bitcoin as a store of value,
Mhm.
not necessarily as the unit of transaction just quite yet. Strike allows you to pay with Bitcoin. It's literally just like Cash App, right? Or Venmo. You just have a little QR code and the other person puts out their phone and you do the QR code and then you transfer the Bitcoin over to the other person. Literally just like Cash App. But don't go there yet. Keep thinking of Bitcoin as a store of value. The medium of transaction or the unit of account, that's what's going to happen next. Right now, I'm in the country of El Salvador, which is the first country that made it legal tender. So I've been paying with Bitcoin, but that's the only country that like everyone kind of does it. So don't worry about that part yet. That part will come in your education. Go through this part first.
Mhm. Yeah,
My suggestion.
that's good. Okay, Sarah, you go, and then we'll go to Debbie.
Nicholas, this is amazing. The picture you painted feels really idealistic, and I was wondering, is Bitcoin immune to kind of human greed? And if not, what blind spots, apart from scams, what blind spots do you see? And is Bitcoin going to be replaced with another container? Like, do you have any ideas of like beyond Bitcoin, what could happen?
Yeah, great questions. Great questions. So it's immutable because the source of truth, right? Let's say you have an Excel sheet on your computer, that's the source of truth, right? So you can go and you can edit it. And if you give someone else access to your Excel spreadsheet, someone can edit it too, right? So there's multiple people that can edit the source of truth. With Bitcoin, it's already distributed, the whole network, it's already at the same time in tens of thousands of computers.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to change something is if you hack 10,000 computers all at the same time and make the same change in all of those 10,000 computers. And then when if people look at it, they have to agree to that change as that change is actually valid. So my point is the energy that it will take any malicious actor to hack 10,000 computers and growing is better spent just buying Bitcoin. So there's no real incentive for a malicious actor to try to quote unquote bring down the network.
Okay.
Secondly, if it were to happen, it would have been at any point in the past when it was more by definition, less computers were running it and therefore more fragile. And because it didn't happen then, every single time it's more and more and more and more robust. If you add up all of the computing power of every single computer that runs Bitcoin, it's more powerful than all of Apple and Google and Amazon and all of those guys put together. It's the world's biggest supercomputer, and it every 10 minutes it validates itself. 10 minutes. Yep, we all agree that these are the rules and the transactions. Yup. 10 minutes. Do we all agree that these are the rules of the transaction? Yup. So it's very increasingly difficult to bring down. Is there going to be another one? Yes, right. That's why I was mentioning this energy system. It's not going to be within this paradigm. It's not going to be computational. When all of the money moves to this new layer, the same way that all of the communications move to the internet layer, right? Once all of the money moves to the Bitcoin layer, and the world changes accordingly, all politics, all businesses, all spirituality changes accordingly, just like it did with the internet, then the new conditions for something else will emerge. But it will be something that's completely outside of the system, which will only happen once everything moves into the Bitcoin system. So let's say we're at 3% Bitcoin. Once we're at like 80, 90% Bitcoin, and the world it created, only from the world it created will we then begin to even fathom what the next one will be. But there will be a next one, right? This one lasted, what, 100 years? I don't know how long this one will last, but the only way that the new one will emerge is as this one reaches fruition.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Debbie. Hi.
Hey, hi. Thanks, Nick. It's really been an amazing education the last few weeks. No, what I wanted to ask is there are a lot of us from Asia here, and our river strike, all these things don't work in our countries, right? And you've already mentioned the problem with the custodial holders, the fact that it's very limited, it's got laws, and also the fact that it could crash, just like banks would crash, or they could maybe for some kind of transaction, they could also freeze your Bitcoin funds because they are an entity, right, that you are trusting with your Bitcoin. Like you said, you don't own it. It's all custodial. So my question is talking about getting it directly from Bitcoin. Like for us in Asia, okay, there is Coinbase, but again, if you don't want to go down the route of having somebody else take care of your money, what is the direct route? I mean, I'm not sure about Asia. Maybe some people here in Asia who are already doing it can say something. But yeah, I just wanted to hear from you about that.
Yeah, so I love the way that you're speaking, right? I can tell that all of this is beginning to make sense, that you're advancing in this. So amazing. Since I don't live there, Debbie, I don't know what wallets are and what Bitcoin only exchanges exist in those countries. I know that Strike is expanding worldwide, but honestly, a simple Google search for Bitcoin only exchanges in your country, right, or Bitcoin wallets in your country will yield the results.
Sure, sure.
And then just
I just want to
read
know
through
how
it.
to buy directly. I would just want to know like what your take is on just getting it directly and owning it and not going through these custodians.
Yeah, it's using it as it's intended because there's less counterparty risk to, as you said, if you have it in the custodian and one of them that does have a CEO, that does have a tech team, if something happens to that, it'll be difficult to recover your Bitcoin. But if you actually have it in your own wallet, then it's self-custody and it's actually yours. And it's a very beautiful thing, a very beautiful feature of this technology that hasn't really existed, right? So yes, everyone should move in this direction. Yeah, and it's just commensurate to education. So go for it. I'm right here, and I'll soon be right here. So yes, be
So I
fully sovereign.
understand that you can buy from Bitcoin Direct. Is that true?
There is no such thing as Bitcoin directly, right? Like there's no
Oh, okay.
company called Bitcoin. It's a
Yeah,
commodity, like like um like wood,
right.
right?
Okay.
There's no company called wood, or there's no company called bushels of corn, which is the
Okay. So we
beauty
have
of
to
it.
buy from the custodians to be able to move it to our wallet. Okay. Sorry. Got it
Yes,
now.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Great question. And the exchanges, it gets more complicated. The exchanges buy it from the miners, right? And then you buy it from the exchanges, but you don't need to understand that part to own it. Buy it from the exchange, then move it to self-custody.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Debbie, thank you for asking that because I think, you surfaced a question that maybe some of us hadn't exactly thought about yet. So thank you for that. And then also too, I want to go back to the financial flow, teaching that was in Dallas. You guys, that was, in my opinion, that was foundational teaching that we all need. And then one of the things that I was passionate about was financial flow continuation and Nicolas coming in because there was just a very short period of time that we heard from Nicolas and we knew that there was heat and energy all over it, so we were like, we got to get Nicolas to do a thing, so hence here we are. But there, you guys, there's more to come. I know that there's more to come, and because the beauty of it again, is how much Kirby absolutely loves for his people, if I can say it that way, those people that are under in the WOW covering. He wants, how he is, how they are. They just give, like give so much away. And this is why this is so important. So there's going to be more that's coming. This is just, I believe, well, there's part of it that I know, and then there's part of it that I believe that there's more coming, and even for those across the globe. And the beauty of it is that we have some people in Sri Lanka and elsewhere, and then we also have people in the US so that we can get a good, global coverage on, education for all of us. So anyway, I just wanted to step in and say that. So yeah. Nicolas, did you want to add anything to that? No? Good. Okay. Helga. Hey, Helga, you go.
Great, thank you. This is amazing. I'm loving it. I feel like my brain has just been fried and and I'm trying to gather my thoughts together. But my question is about how today we have the haves and the have-nots. It sounds like tech and AI are going to bring those people with Bitcoin into the future in a good way. How will society look? Like, are we strategizing to take care of the have-nots? Like, help me out with that part of it.
That's
If
exact. That's a beautiful question. Exactly. That's what I'm attempting to set the framework for us to think in, right? If we know the eternal principles that Kirby teaches, and we now understand the characteristics of the new medium, when we combine those, new institutions that don't exist yet, that don't even have names yet, will emerge, and that's how we do it. Right? It's one of those things that because it doesn't exist yet, I can't like give you an answer. But we're beginning to understand what are the ingredients for that soup. And these are the ingredients for that soup. Beautiful question.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And because we are so solution based, in the WOW community, I can see where somebody or a group of people in the WOW community that are passionate about this sort of thing could end up coming up with a solution for that people group that need this information and need to transact in this sort of way. So anyway, oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. So yeah, is there anybody else have any questions or comments? Yep. Okay, are we good? Nicholas, did you have anything you want to share?
Last thing, two things. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's a team, right? You've heard me say this before, but
Yeah.
Sometimes we're the listeners and sometimes we're the talkers, and revelation needs both. And today I just get to be the talker, but many other times it's going to be y'all and I'll be the listener, and we need both for revelation to happen. So yeah, this came through you as well because you listened. So own it, okay? Own the fact that God told you this too. It's not me relaying it to you, even though that's what it seems like, but that's not how revelation works, right? It's a team sport. So this is y'all's as well. Yeah, and just this one, build your conviction, go at the pace of your conviction and bring the future into the present, and trust yourself that you're smart. Google is your friend. I am your friend. Repetitions are your friend, okay? Y'all got this.
Yeah.
And be
Okay.
proud of yourselves that you are very, very early when compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's so good. Nicholas, thank you. And you guys, okay, so in the replays, the video replays that are in YouTube, they're posted out there on Facebook and in different places, Mighty Network, so on and so forth. There's Nicholas's website that is okay, Heidi, I'm coming to you, so don't go away. But in the description on the YouTube videos, Nicholas's website is on there, which you can sign up for the newsletter, and the email address and all of that is in there. So you guys you can get that information there, but then also too, we'll be sending out some information and share all those links in there as well. So okay, so Heidi, have at it,
Hi.
friend.
I'm not going to video because my internet's a little sketchy.
Sure.
My question is, I'm not even sure how to frame it, Nicholas, but it's kind of around if we have an inverse currency, which never loses value, and we want to move a generation from the have-nots into the future. Is there a way to position the Bitcoin so that it just intrinsically pays off mortgages and is capable of building cities, and not through individual ownership, but by its nature? Is there any, is my question making any sense?
Yes, 100%. I always love your questions because yeah, you're pulling on it. You're pulling on its potential. This is what I mean by new institutions, right? There are going to be new institutions. There are going to be new artifacts that haven't existed before that allow us to do that, right? For instance, just another idea. all scientific research right now is done through a very bureaucratic grant system controlled by the universities. Super bureaucratic, incredibly slow, right? But imagine if everyone that holds Bitcoin gives a portion of their Bitcoin to scientists. So instead of going through the bureaucratic, slow, tedious political process of grant writing and grant assigning, we give them a portion of our Bitcoin and they just siphon off as it grows. And in exchange, we get early access to whatever scientific discoveries they do, right? So it
Yeah.
inverted the relationship between the dissemination of knowledge that right now it's under the very bureaucratic, slow fiat system that is very centralized by universities and the grant givers, into completely democratized for those that give Bitcoin into these containers that invest as a macro cost, sovereignly funded by individuals, right?
Right.
So those type of new institutions are now available because of the intrinsic characteristics of the medium. So that's the question. That's the type of question that we need to be asking.
And we should be building those institutions.
I mean, historically, the church has done a really good job building institutions, right? It's going to come, right? There's going to be entrepreneurs and really smart people. And also the church eventually will get into it. You know, we're at the beginning. But yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Okay, Michael, bring it home, buddy.
Yeah, real quick. This is an old financial term that I heard when you were speaking at the end. That's going to shift and change. We all know we know about a promissory note. It's usually about because you're in debt and you're promising to make good on it. God's saying I'm changing that, and it's a promissory note. My promises. There's a note of a frequency that's been released through these seminars. There's a frequency, there's a sound, and my promises are good. When I said I'm going to make good on something, I'm going to make good on something. So you can count on those promissory notes that I'm writing.
Amazing, Michael. Thank you. Way to bring it home.
I knew he would bring it home. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Nicolas, again, thank you for helping us change our mindsets on things, because I believe that, our minds have to be changed to be able to contain the new that's coming in, because Isaiah 43:18-19 says, let go of those former things, because behold, I'm doing a new thing. And this is a new thing for us, and we need to change our minds for the new thing so that we can receive that wealth transfer. So, Nicolas, thank you. You guys, everybody, thank you for being with us these last 3 sessions, and we'll get the last video posted out there. The information's in the description. And then don't forget, you got the code in there for the 20% off of Financial Flow. And yeah, just let me know if you guys have any questions, and more to come. All right, you guys.
You love you, Nicolas and Rose.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nicolas.
everyone. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rose.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
So
you,
amazing.
Nicholas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas. Thank you, Rose.
High five.
This is
Thank
zeitgeist.
you, Nicholas.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, you guys. Love you.
So
Bye-bye.
good.
Love you too.
Bye. Bye.